Hello and welcome to the Truly Amazing Women TV show on Incandescent Women magazine. I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, your host, here with the amazing Kristine Carlson, author of 7 books, a New York Times best-selling author, and we are sitting in her magnificent home here at the top of a very beautiful hill in Northern California. So we're going to talk today about transformation, joy, and happiness, themes that permeate all of Kristine's work. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about how I met this amazing woman. So this book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff About Money, is a project that her husband, Richard Carlson, launched, and Kristine eventually co-authored the series. So this book came out in 1997, and I bought it immediately when I saw it in the bookstore and had been carrying it around for years. It was sitting on my bookshelf in 2010 when I launched Incandescent magazine, the publication that I created around my company, Incandescent Public Relations for Entrepreneurs by Entrepreneurs. So Don't Sweat the Small Stuff About Money just spoke to me. Whenever I open it up, I'm like, yep, that's true, I need to know that. So when I was creating the list of articles that I wanted to write for the magazine, this was at the top of the list. And when I went to search for Richard Carlson, I found on the website that he had passed away. And I was so devastated. But I kept reading and saw that his wife had written a book about her experience called Heartbroken-Open. So this book became the connection between Chris and I. I wrote about this book and interviewed Chris for the magazine and eventually came to meet her here in California. And since then, she has become a member of my Speakers Bureau, Cover Stories, and a friend.
Thank you.
So here we are today in this beautiful home talking about her journey of transformation and her new book, From Heartbreak to Wholeness, The Hero's Journey to Joy. So Chris, welcome to Truly Amazing Women.
Thanks, Hope. Thank you so much for having me on again.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for visiting too.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about From Heartbreak to Wholeness, The Hero's Journey, which came out last year, so we're thrilled to be promoting it on the summer issue of Incandescent Women magazine. So tell us about this book.
So essentially, From Heartbreak to Wholeness is my journey of about 10 years distilled down into 9 chapters. You know, when I wrote Heartbroken-Open, I was very raw, and I really wrote it as a healing book. When I was in very deep grief in the early years, I would say I just couldn't understand how anyone without the tools that I had got through this. And what was fascinating is I began to sort of witness myself moving through grief, and I think that was a lot of my training. It was to be very clear about understanding that the parts of this loss that I couldn't change, the parts I couldn't control, were the things I needed to surrender to. And so that book was very healing for me and became a very deep healing companion for other women and men who have lost a partner or a child. About 2 years ago, I started to realize that I had another book in me, and it was a different kind of book. It's different in the sense of that this is a memoir, and From Heartbreak to Wholeness is a journey. And I wanted my reader to understand that no matter where they were in their journey of loss, and all kinds of loss, not just the loss of a partner or spouse, but any kind of loss that created the complete annihilation of one's identity, putting them into an identity crisis, so to speak. Those were the kind of losses that I really began to speak to over the years as I transcended and ascended from my own loss.
And they're very powerful, obviously. So tell our audience who may not know a little bit about Richard and also how he did pass.
Yeah, so you now know Richard is the author of the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff book series. Ironically, like most people know him for that, but they don't realize that that was his 10th book. And so he had been writing for 10 years and sometimes even struggling as a writer. And but Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was his 10th book, and it was just different. You know, he had really premiered that small, short essay chapter. You know, you can see the books are small. This is one of the books in the series. Don't Sweat the Small Stuff was the original book, and this was one that he wrote later in the series. But you can see they're small, and they have these 800 to 1,000 word essays, and he really wanted to find a way to reach people with the same messages that he'd been writing all along in his earlier work. And You Can Be Happy No Matter What, The 5 Principles Your Therapist Never Told You, You Can't Feel Good Again, Shortcut Through Therapy. There's all these books that he'd written, but he wanted to say it in a way that people could just read it quickly and understand one thing in each chapter. So that was like the powerful thing about it, is that he spoke it in a language where it transcended, you know, age, race, religion, you know, ethnic background, just every, there was no separation for anyone with this book series, the way he wrote it, because he chose topics that are applicable to all human beings at all times in life, and making the series incredibly relevant even today. But Richard, you know, he was just an amazing author and man and husband and father and son and great friend, and, you know, everybody loved him. And one day, you know, when he was 45 years old, and very unexpectedly, he got on a plane. He had been suffering from some back pain and had quite a few cortisone injections. This was not the cause of his death, but I think it was a contributing factor. He had developed deep vein thrombosis, and we didn't know it, and I didn't know that till after his death. And when he, on the descent of this flight going into New York for a publicity tour, he died suddenly from a blood clot, a pulmonary embolism, that if you have it on a plane, it can be very lethal, and in his case, it was really instant death.
So in the years since, how have you managed to go from that space to this one?
Well, like I said, it took a long time. I mean, I will say though, even after the first 2 years, when I had written Heartbroken-Open, it had come out in the third year, but I had written it the first 2 years. I was already starting to help other women that were in grief. And so, you know, I always say the best way out of the trenches yourself is to hold your hand down and have to pull with all your strength and pull somebody up and help them stand. And as you help them stand, you get stronger. And that was certainly what I felt with these devastated women that would come to this home, and we would sit in circles together, and, you know, everyone would tell their story, and it would be, you know, everyone had a different story, and it was so heart-wrenching and healing, you know, because to be witnessed and heard and to be supportive of one another was just a really powerful, very powerful thing.
And to help people also, you have these wonderful retreats.
Yeah, so I'm in the stage of my career where I just do what I love to do. And a long time ago, you know, during like the 2008 financial crisis, I decided that the best way for me to cut back was not to spend money on travel. And so at that point, I decided that I would create travel experiences that I could deduct, and I would still get travel.
There you go.
So, and I love to travel with women. I love to lead retreats. I love to hold retreats. Some of them, like our trip to Italy and Bali, are more cultural and they're more lighthearted, but I do wisdom circles, and we do yoga every day. That's one of the things, because for me, a vacation to me isn't a vacation unless I'm doing yoga every day. And so the program is really an online program plus a retreat, and the retreat it's just phenomenal. I just come off of the retreat right a couple days ago, and it's just it's so beautiful to see these women arrive. You know, they're scared, they're a little bit like, what am I doing here? And then at the end, they've got this light, and they've broken open, and they have this beautiful light, and they're all connected, and it's just an incredible retreat. So I love it. I mean, it's become a passion of mine.
Yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah.
You know, be the change you wish to see in the world, for sure. And that's really a theme of all these videos. Whatever women I'm interviewing, there's always this light within them that guides others. And that's the goal of Incandescent Women Magazine, the Truly Amazing Women TV show, which you are watching today's episode of with the amazing Kristine Carlson. Her new book is From Heartbreak to Wholeness, The Hero's Journey to Joy. So be sure to check that out, take some guided meditations with her, and follow Chris. I'm Hope Katz Gibbs, your host. We'll talk to you soon.